because I want to do this. I'm going to toss a little hand grenade at you and see what you want to do with it here. But I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and wanting to communicate my story and these things that have happened to me. And then this opportunity came up, and this opportunity to reach a lot of people, and there's that quote that says, be the person that you needed when you were younger. And Gina has that on her wall, and it stares me in the face every day. And I realize that I now am the person that I needed when I was younger. And if somebody would have opened up their mouth and let me know that I wasn't alone, and that I wasn't so isolated, and so many horrible things that we all deal with is because we feel isolation. We don't think anyone could understand, and we don't think that anyone else is going through these things. And if we did, just that knowledge of not being alone would be so significant. But when I was 14 years old, I was molested by my stepmother, and this went on for well over a year, close to 2 years. And it was obviously detrimental to me. And these are things that I'm just now finally starting to be able to understand and realize like what happened to me, and realize how young I was at the time. When I meet a 14-year-old kid, like, you're a fucking baby. You're a baby. It's like when we think about ourselves when we were younger, like at least myself, I'm like, I still feel the same I did when I was younger. I was just little. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you don't really understand how little you were until you have like a little 12, 14-year-old kid standing next to you. Like, you're not like, you don't even, how could that happen? And like thinking about how, I saw a study that said 1 in 6 males are abused by the time they're 18, which means every one of us probably knows somebody that this has happened to, and to think how devastating it is to women, but to men, it's such a different thing, because it's almost viewed, when it happens from a woman, it's almost viewed as like a good thing. You know? Like it's a positive thing. Like, oh, I wish that happened to me when I was a kid. Like, I want to be molested, and we're not able to really understand it, and understand the damage that it does. And I if I wouldn't have felt so alone and so isolated at the time, I don't necessarily know if things would have changed, but I definitely wouldn't have felt so alone. I wouldn't have felt like there's nobody in the world that could possibly understand this. There's nobody who can I talk to about this? Like, I can't talk to my friends. A couple of my friends knew. They thought it was the coolest shit ever. They're like, I want that bad. And I'm like,
well, it was your stepmom too, which is,
dude, it was so confusing. I was very conflicted by it. Like, I couldn't understand it at all, and then to have this person like mentally manipulating me and making like, oh, it's not a big deal, it's okay, it's almost like it's a good thing, like it's like there's nothing wrong, it's I'm not a stranger, and this even prior to as I said, I started drinking when I was 12, but this really just derailed me so much and made me internalize and put up these barriers and walls around me, and things that like I said, I'm only even just at this age starting to understand, like the negative habits that this created in me, of distrust and of negativity, and of having to be alone and not trust people, and and so many things like that like Gina's probably the only person that I've ever talked to in depth about this. I mean, a couple of people in my family know, and almost none of my friends know. I've never spoken to this to anybody. I try to go to a therapist once and talk about this, but I started realizing like this therapist is getting more out of this our interaction than I am. Like he's, you know, like a overweight person that needs like self-confidence help. I'm like, oh geez, man, like who can I fucking talk to about this? And you know, maybe I can't talk to anybody, but I am in a position to where I can reach out and let other people know that they're not the only ones going through this. And that has been weighing on me so much lately, especially over the last few years. I'm like, you are in a position to be able, even if it only helps one person, like you just don't know how to. I'm like, well, I could write about it, or I could do like a video blog or something. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I'm like, how can I do this? And like, should I do this? I'm like, I don't know if that's like a good thing. Like, it's not like I'm a like psychologist or someone that can like help with this. But I just felt like I need to express this and communicate this, and maybe it can do some good for even one person. And if I didn't, that would haunt me forever.
I had an experience when I was 13 with a girl who lived up the street who was 21 a couple times. But it was very different than your experience. It was, I'm ashamed to say it. It was kind of fun. You know, it was different. I couldn't believe it. It was very weird.
Yeah.
But it definitely, like, kind of screwed up my idea of what boy-girl interaction was. Yeah. I didn't go from like 13-year-olds most of the time. They're like, you want to kiss? I don't know. Do you? I don't know.
Yeah.
To, you know, this girl grabbing my dick and pulling her tits out. She was a woman, you know, She was 21. Yeah. And it didn't hurt me like your story. Like your story hurts. Like it sounds like you were betrayed, and you were, and also the fact that it was your stepmom. I mean, with me, it was like, what the fuck was that all about? Yeah. And I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't tell anybody for like fucking years and years later. I probably didn't tell anyone until I was in my 20s. Uh-huh. And I think I probably told a girlfriend when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
And she was like, when was the first time you ever fooled around? I was like, well, because that was really the first time I had ever fooled around with anyone, was this 21-year-old woman.
It was the same thing for me. You know, I didn't even kiss a girl until I was, I don't know, 12, 13, like late, because I was such a shy person. So I went from just kissing to that. There was no in between.
I think it's the same with me. I don't even think I kissed. I think I kissed her.
Yeah.
I think she was the first person I kissed.
Yeah. And to just have your innocence ripped away like that, and to be thrust into this adult thing. You know, obviously the situation was that much worse. It being, you know, my stepmom, and it being molested, and you know, it's such a different thing than a woman or being forcefully raped.
Oh, it's way different. Yeah.
But psychologically and emotionally, you know, it's devastating. It is obviously.
And you were living with her as well?
Yeah.
You know, so that's, the whole thing is terrible. And you said it went on for a year?
Longer than a year. It was probably close to 2 years.
How did it stop?
I stopped it, actually. You know, this was something, you know, I never felt right about this. I was very conflicted by it, you know, and I was like, this definitely isn't a good thing. But I don't know. Like, and I didn't understand how bad of a thing it was, you know. Mm-hmm. And again, she was very manipulative, and you know, anytime I would kind of bring that subject up, like, yeah, I don't think this is okay, you know, this feels wrong, and she'd be like, no, you know, and find this way to you know, rationalize it or make it okay. And you know, but as time went on, like, I just like, this is bad.
How old was she?
She was probably 30, young 30s. You know, now that was another thing. Like, once I got to that age, and then I saw a 14-year-old, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, yeah. I couldn't even conceptualize how twisted this person was until I got that age. Like, how could you look at a baby, a child, and do that? How could you do that?
You know the expression, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah. And, and unfortunately, a lot of that for me helps you like rationalize it and make it like, oh, well, she's fucked up. And, even my father, after he found out, like, he kept this lady around for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
After he found out?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of split up and divorced, but they kind of worked together still, and he kept her around for quite some time, and that alone was extremely damaging to me, and
a betrayal,
such a betrayal, and such a traumatic thing that I didn't even really understand how damaging that was after the fact till recently, because I myself would rationalize it. Well, he didn't want to like be an asshole and like send her off. And like, she was an alcoholic too. And, he was like, oh, he's just trying to, make this horrible situation like okay for all of us. And, I didn't really think about like how fucked up he was in the whole situation, and like how much more damaging it was in the long run to me by not having my father protect me. Like, if this happened to my child, I would fucking murder a woman that did this, I certainly wouldn't keep her around, and I certainly wouldn't, like, just handle it the way that he did, and that was almost, it magnified the damage that much more so because of the way that it was handled, and to not have that, to not be taken care of by adults, by not be taken care of by my father, by the people around me who are supposed to love me and take care of me, and they did the exact opposite. Like, they fucked my world up, and I put Band-Aids of alcohol on it my whole life, and I understand like why I did that, and why it was, I really was trying to kill myself, really. When you look at it, that's what I was doing. I was just doing a long process of it, and that's what we do. It's like, we don't want to take a gun and kill ourselves, but I don't want to really live, and I want to check out of this place sooner the better. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make it happen, and that way I can't say I killed myself, but I was killing myself every day and putting myself in situations that were extremely dangerous and detrimental and damaging, and that's what I was doing. And half of my life I was just destroyed, and I'm trying to use this second part of my life to make up for the damage that was done, and to try to turn a horrible situation in a negative situation and something that I could easily point to and allow destroy my life, which is what I was doing, and trying to do the opposite. It's again with the fight approach. It's like, you have a loss, you have a horrible thing happen, you have an injury. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to let it destroy you and break you and never do this again, and be depressed and bitch and complain and whine about it? Or are you going to say, yeah, shitty things happen to all of us. Fucked up things happened, and we all have the excuse to let it destroy our lives and to use it to make ourselves feel better about drinking and drugs and just being an asshole. And, like, we all have reasons to be dicks, and we all have reasons to, take it out on other people. But that doesn't mean that you should, and that doesn't mean that you don't still have a choice. It's that victim mentality, and this is something that I just started understanding, because that term victim mentality. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm a fucking victim. But what victim mentality really is feeling like you don't have a role to play from that point. Yeah, you might not have been able to control these terrible things that have happened to you, but you do have control over what you do from there. You have control over whether you use that to go into a more positive light, or you use that to drastically damage you and you know, be this burden that you carry?
Well, sometimes I think when someone like you goes through something like this and comes out on the other end, what you can do by talking about this can set a path for so many people to understand that, you know, when someone looks at you, you know, they see you fighting on television, and they see you on the internet, and, you know, successful Muay Thai fighter, and, you know, you look cool, you have this beautiful girlfriend, everything seems so positive. You know, when you're a young kid and your life is shit, like mine was, clearly like yours was, you look at these people like they're nothing like you. They're aliens. They're some different thing. It's the world is opened up to them so easily, and they're better than you. When someone hears you talk about your experience, the alcoholism, the abuse, the isolation, the feeling like a loser, and all the things that are so relatable to so many people, when you can talk about this, you're setting a map that other people can follow. And this is something that's so important in culture and in human beings. We're all part of some strange evolution of the human race. And the things that our grandparents went through were likely unfucking believably horrific. The things their grandparents went through were probably magnitudes worse. And this is just how human beings have gone from being monkeys to being what we are now. And it's happening very rapidly. And one of the things that accelerates this understanding of consequences and of the ability to rise to the occasion and overcome obstacles and to be able to use adversity as a tool to better yourself is someone like you. What you're doing right now is very, very beneficial to so many people. Millions of people are listening to this right now, and so many of them, this is going to resonate with them. They're going to say, oh, this guy who is this fucking badass kickboxer, Muay Thai fighter, badass dude who's just like, you know, like people admire you. And to hear this is so powerful. I mean, I'm so glad you said it. I'm so glad you talked all of it from the beginning, you know, your earlier struggles to this, because this is medicine for people, man. There's a lot of people that are hearing this right now and they're going, I can do it too.